Welcome to this meeting with the jury of the International Award for Illustration, Bologna Children's Book Fair and Fundación SM. I give my warmest welcome to this meeting to Claudia Bedrick, publisher and editor and art director at Enchanted Lion from United States. She's here from Brooklyn with us. Thank you, Claudia, for being with us.
Thank you.
I give also my warmest welcome to Harry Winner, publisher at Noble Flying Eyes Books from United Kingdom, from London. Thank you. And there is a jury member who is actually missing in this moment, who is Teresa Telechea of Fundación SM by Spain. Teresa Telechea is a children's books editor and also a coordinator of programs for Fundación SM. Teresa will join us through a video contribution that it will follow our conversation. So I have to say it's always fantastic to present the meetings devoted to this award, because as we have heard by our exhibition manager Elena Pasoli of Bologna Children's Book Fair, and this prize, this award for us is a sign of friendship. And it's a long story. It's 10 years. It was launched in 2009. That is discovering, encouraging, and supporting new talents in illustration. It's beautiful because in these years we saw the artists growing up, and we meet them again, we see the books, and this award is something that changed their life. As we know, there are artists under 35 that are selected for the Illustrators exhibition, so winners of the illustration exhibition, that are then candidated to this important award. Of course, the award offers the winner a check of $15,000 to give a resource for a year to develop a picture book that will be published and released by the Spanish publisher SM. And the next year, the illustrations of the book will be presented in a solo exhibition. So we know that in 2020, we didn't do the award. So it will be possible on the gallery of the website to see the solo exhibition of the winner of 2019, who is Sara Mazzetti. So next year, we're gonna see the solo exhibition of the winner of this year, who is Pei Xin Cho, a Taiwanese visual storyteller based in London, with the work that it has many ingredients, but I don't want to anticipate it because I would like to see these images and to listen from the jury members how was choosing her for the award, why, and what did they feel about her work. Before listening to our jury members, I'd like to read the statement that the jury wrote. The jury wrote, "We chose Pei Xin Cho for the SM Award because of the energy of her line and the richly layered sense of space and of the page. Her work is unusual, with perspectives that invite the viewer into both the expansiveness of space and the depths of a character's inner realm. There is abundant promise here, with Cho, young as she is, boldly exploring and visually recording forms and feelings in ways that surprise, thereby inviting the eye to linger on the world that she delineates and opens for us to see." So it's full of promise, is something that we will follow in the time to come. It will be a great year for this young artist. But as a first thing, I would like to ask to Claudia Bedrick, Enchanted Lion, to tell us something about her experience as a jury member of this important international award.
Thank you. It was exciting to participate in the conversation with Teresa and Harry, and it was a really interesting process of narrowing in on the artists that we were responding to individually, and then sharing with each other in a way that I think put a spotlight onto things we hadn't noticed about other artists. so that we really engage in a rich communal conversation across the artists and their techniques and how we felt they were communicating visually. So it was a rich conversation that through which we really began to focus on which artists we were going to in the end select.
When you look for new talents, Claudia Bedrick, what do you look for, or what were you looking for? You as for your sensibility, of course, professional and human and artistic sensibility, what were you looking for?
Typically, as a publisher, I look for a vitality of line. I look for, you know, a real energy that's there in the line itself. Because I think, as we all know, that's the fundamental space of expression. And so if I see a line that's not varied, that's not moving, that doesn't have texture and dimension, that's not changing, but it's just sort of like there, the same, then that immediately loses my interest, I guess I would say. I also typically look for an artist's ability to tell a story. I mean, obviously there are many wonderful artists working who are doing editorial work and freestanding images, but don't necessarily have a drive to tell a story or a narrative sensibility. So I look for that, as well as an expression of feeling. That's something that's, I think, very strong at Enchanted Lion, and that I'm typically engaged with and looking for in work, to see if there's an emotional substratum, an atmosphere to the work. So these were the primary interests that I brought as a juror in looking at the work, as well as a sense of color and composition, of course.
This is thank you, Claudia. This is we are seeing some of the images of the winner. So it's a special type of sensibility that is displayed. There are many different ingredients in it, and I would like to ask you, Claudia, if here the use of color or the use of atmosphere gave you add a special strength for you. And here there is also an image with this theme of metamorphosis, which is so important in all children's literature. We would say it's very classic theme, but here is made with the particular atmosphere. I would say also kind of disturbing in a way. And so how did you find this vitality being displayed or being varied in the artist's way to illustrate?
It's interesting to hear, because it's not, I guess that's the subjectivity that we each bring to it. It's not a disturbing image for me at all, but something more intimate and familiar that then takes on a dimension because of the elements and perspectives that are being combined here, to move from the interior and a kind of space of emotion into a connection to the world, and how that former image was layered. For me, there's the expression of an inner world that is coming out, and a emotional tone that makes me interested in the character and begins to reveal the character to me. I mean, I think for us as a jury, Harry will speak to that last image you just showed of the trees, but I think for all of us, that image was kind of a culmination of our interest in this work. The next image of the trees and the bird in the sky, which was, you know, so incredibly beautiful, and again saturated with feeling, and mysterious in a way that makes you want to see more, and gives you a dimension to the page that is really way beyond what I see in a lot of work.
Thank you for that. And I would like to hear from Harry Gwynner. How was your experience and what were you looking for? This is interesting to see how personal also always is the way of seeing. way of looking?
I found it very, very difficult. I went into it, I started with an entirely open mind and was waiting to be bowled over by artist after artist. And I was. There was no question about that. And I think the easiest thing I did was starting looking at the art. And then the most difficult thing came down to actually starting that kind of judging process, that internal judging process. Why do I like this? Why do I dislike this? Why is this stronger than something else? How does this affect me? It's very subjective for me. I believe that it would be wonderful to say that we publish solely for the audience, but I think quite often as publishers we publish for ourselves as well. It's a very subjective feeling. And I think something that Claudia said, which was the vitality of line is always so important. But it's also, for me, what is not there, what allows me to fill the gaps with my own imagination. I always find to compare maybe to another media, to look at the films of David Lynch, for example. I always project into David Lynch movies in a way that I don't project into maybe other Hollywood movies. And I like that, because what comes back at me is not necessarily what I threw into the void in the first place. Things are manipulated, changed, and suddenly I can hear another juror's voice, either reiterating or confirming my opinions or completely against the grain. So from that perspective, the process was nerve-wracking. I'm sure it was more nerve-wracking for the artists themselves to submit their work and to put it out there in that respect. And I know that requires a strength in itself. But to really sit down and kind of look at it and pick it apart thread by thread, and understand what it was doing for me, and whether my initial reactions, I went through it time and time again, and I have my first, my second, my third, my fourth viewing notes, and they've all changed ever so slightly. And my front runner from my first pass was not the finalist that we chose. She was up there, of course, but things changed, I think, with every viewing. And I think the thing that happened for me was this artist, she grew and she grew and she grew, and it became unshakable for me. And I think that's the subjective nature of publishing. And I wish there was a science that could tell you what everyone wanted. There isn't. As far as I can tell, I can only go on my feelings. And then it depends on what my strength of feeling is and the security that I hold in that feeling. So it's a very difficult process.
Thank you for that. The group of a jury, it becomes then one voice, but is a very hard collective process, as you were saying, that then express a winner. So that's why it's very interesting for us to meet the jury members. I would like to ask you, Harry, could you tell us which were the topics or the ingredients on which you agreed or disagreed? Which were the more controversial points about the illustration's qualities? Can you tell us something about that?
I think, if I'm right in thinking, the things that we agreed on were the things that were pushing the boundaries. We didn't want things that had a too strong an echo of an artist that we'd seen before, a color palette that we knew was obvious as such. We wanted something that was socially in tune, as in that respect. And by that, I mean something that was illustration. I think evolves just as human beings evolve, as taste evolves, and as things grow, really. And I felt that Pei, what she'd managed to do was capture that feeling. And I think as a jury, she was one of the few that we were all agreed on, and she went into our kind of A list straight away. That sense of narrowing it down from there became more difficult, because I think, you know, the whole point of a jury is that you have these three sets of eyes that are looking, and they've all got, you know, the different things that make them tick. And I think whether it was how snow built up against a fence, or a sense of movement that some of us saw, or the sense of color, or the boldness, or the sense of the surreal in some cases. I think there was an artist where we saw the Trans-Siberian Railway and the capturing of kind of like towns and all these different towns. I mean, there was many amazing things, but it was lovely to find that when we started talking about pay, that all of us, I think, came fairly quickly to the same conclusion. Here is something that's thrilling us. Here's something that's giving us a sense of the unknown, and we want to see more. And I think that's one of the key ingredients, is that absolute thirst for knowledge. And I think it's a little bit like reading a book when you're really tired, late at night, and you want to carry on, but your eyes are giving up, and you have to put it down. And it's that infuriating thing where you have to sleep for whatever, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours before you can have another go at it. And it's frustrating in that sense.
Thank you very much, Harry Gwynner. You both said many important things about the art of picture books. I would say I recognize expressions that belong to the history of picture books, and also to the reflections on the subject. Because when we talk about vitality of lines, for example, as Claudia Eberick was doing before, to my mind it comes the memory of the words of Randolph Caldecott, for example, one of the greatest illustrators, and he would talk about that. And also Maurice Sendak would write about the importance of dynamism of lines in illustration. And also it's very beautiful what you said, Harry, that you were looking for a sense of unknown. I have to say that this word, as I said, means a lot to us and to I think the international publishing scene. I would like, if you agree, to nominate the artists that were awarded in the last editions, because we start with Philip Giordano in 2010, that now is an internationally award-winning author and established also in, I will just read all the names starting from 2010. So that was Philip Giordano, then page 2, Evelyn Laube and Nina Verl, known as It's Raining Elephants, and Sato Etone, Caterina Sobral, Macy Paradise Sharing, Juan Palomino, who also this year was awarded for a book in our special category of poetry of Bologna Ragazzi Award, then Manuel Marsol, Wendy Vernich, Sara Mazzetti, and now we add the name of Pei Xin Cho. So for us, this will be, it's a great promise, and we're gonna look forward the work of this young artist that is young but sophisticated and interesting, as you were pointing out, for many reasons. So I would like to present now the video by Teresa Telechea, who will give us her contribution. She's also one of the coordinators of many different projects and programs for Fundación SM. So now we will listen to her words.
Hello, Marcela, how are you? Well, as a member of the jury, what I looked for on the illustrations from the Illustrators exhibition was what I also look for as a children's book editor, which are a few criteria. On one side, for me, it's very important, the narrative. The illustrations have to tell you a story, and you don't need to have a text in order to follow them. Then I think it's very important the use of colors, the composition, also the sense of humor, and the characters. If there are characters, they have to be strong. They have to be strong characters. For me, these are the important criteria. And then, of course, is the personal taste. You cannot avoid your personal taste. So you try also to be the most objective as possible, but you know it's complicated. So for me, the process was very interesting, because listening to Harry and Claudia was like a lecture on illustration for free. It was very interesting. And it was also very interesting to realize that my opinions changed from what was my experience of looking at illustrations at home on my own, and then share with them my ideas and listening to them about the illustrators I like it more or less, because it made me change my mind. It really made me change my mind. So I look at illustrations in a different way while sharing them, while looking at them with them and discussing. And What I would like to say is, like, I think we are very, very proud of the choice we have made. Of course, there was a very high quality this year in this illustrations exhibition. I think there could be another works that could have also won. But we have gone for Pacing Show because we really found that it was a very intimate story, very subtle, very delicate, and at the same time very strong. Regarding the use of colors, it's true that she's only using a scale of grays, but she really masters it. It's not easy to use only a scale of grays, and she really does it very, very well. Then the comic sequence is very, very accomplished too. It's very good. She tells you a story that goes starts outside, then goes to an interior, becoming more intimate, and then goes outside again. It starts like looking at the rooftops with a view of the rooftops of a city. Then it goes to a building in particular, and a woman is looking through the window. She's looking to the sky, maybe to the birds, and then she goes into her apartment. She takes a bag of seeds and she plants them, and you can see the next sequence that they are growing, the plants are growing, and behind them the trees are growing more and more. The plants she has planted die, but the trees outside keep growing and they become almost giant. And then she goes back again to the woman looking through the window and these magnificent trees. And the last image, which is very powerful, you can see a view of the sky above through the branches, the big branches and the leaves of the trees. So she guides very well the weaver, the person who's looking at the illustrations on each sequence, and in a very, very interesting way. And I personally felt moved by this story. And also she gives you tips or details like the little mask appearing in the apartment and the calendar. So she's telling you that it happened during the lockdown, during the pandemic. And well, I think that we are going to create a beautiful picture book with her next year, and I hope to meet you in Bologna in order to talk about it next year. So what else I can say? I can say also that I saw her work, the rest of her work after the choice was made, and I was really impressed by it. And then I could read the reasons that were behind this work in particular. I don't want to tell them here, but I think if you could look at her website and you could read it about it, you could have even a better idea of her work and why did she did that. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you next year in Bologna.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to go to the conclusion. Thank you for your time. I know in this time of the year we're all looking forward to Bologna, so we are all very busy working. So thank you for finding time for our meeting. Thank you for your wonderful work as jury members, and we look forward the new works by these artists, and of course to see you in person, to meet you in person next year in Bologna. All my thanks and all my best to you. Grazie.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.